What's up, Tailgaters? My name is Tailgate Nate, and welcome to the Tailgate Nate Sports Show. On the show, I cover the NFL, MLS, MLB, NBA, and NHL. This is my first ever show. I am really excited to do this for you guys, and today I'm going to be covering the week from August 2nd to August 8th. Sports finally are getting back in the full swing, and we got a lot to cover today. So let's go ahead and take a look at our agenda in the NBA. The East playoff field is set, and I'm going to talk to you and give you my predictions on who I think is going to be the 8th seed in the Western Conference and the NHL Stanley Cup qualifiers. And round-robin games are coming to a close. I'll give you my thoughts on a thrilling week in hockey and my Stanley Cup first-round predictions. The MLS's back tournament has been fun, hasn't it? But that final is set. I'm going to give you my thoughts and prediction on who's going to get $1 million prize and a spot in the CONCACAF Champions League. All of that and more coming up on the Tailgate Nate Sports Show. All right, we're going to start off with the NFL. They do not have a season going on right now, so I'm just going to give you some headlines in the NFL. Veteran running back Jeremy Hill signs with the Las Vegas Raiders, and according to a lot of reports, is still a long shot to make the roster, which I honestly cannot believe. I think Jeremy Hill is an absolutely, or I shouldn't say absolutely brilliant, but he's a pretty good running back, definitely has a lot of experience playing with the Cincinnati Bengals and the New England Patriots. Tore his ACL in 2018 as a member of the New England Patriots, so maybe that's why people are saying he's a long shot. But I do definitely think that Jeremy Hill can make the roster, and I think he'll be a very good backup to Josh Jacobs there in Las Vegas. Wide receiver Odell Beckham plans to play despite his earlier concerns about the NFL season. He previously has said before this date that he wouldn't mind if the NFL season did not happen, but then came out and said, I still want to play if we do have an NFL season. So some interesting comments there from Odell Beckham. That same day, the NFL sets their opt-out date for Thursday at 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And at that date, 66 players opted out for the 2020 season. No really big quarterback or super big name, but some good playmakers opted out there in the NFL. But a total of 66 players opted out for the 2020 season. And the NFL said they were going to look towards the use of virtual fans, which I'm getting pretty excited about. MLB, if you've watched broadcasts on Fox, have tried to put in like a video game audience. That's been pretty fun. There's been cardboard cutouts over the stands as well. That's been pretty hilarious as well. Just fun to look at. The MLB, NHL, MLS have used big video screens and like a giant Zoom call to do virtual fans, which has been a pretty cool idea as well. So definitely could work for the NFL if they decide to have a season. And then the Washington football team released the running back Darius Geis after he was arrested, so that's a big loss for the Washington football team. Darius Geis just made a stupid mistake, and he paid for it. So Washington no longer with Darius Geis. That's going to do it for the NFL. That's your NFL news. All right, we pick it back up with Major League Baseball, and this was a sport that I was really, really worried about when they announced their plan. Now, I thought it was a good plan and a plan that was long overdue, but I was worried about it. They're planning to play in home stadiums, which I was worried about, and I had the right so to be. Baseball's been a little bit of a mess. Somehow it's still finding a way. We'll give you some headlines here. A big loss for the New York Mets as Yoenis Cespedes opts out of the 2020 season. The slugger did not report for Sunday's game against the Braves and decided later that he was going to opt out. So that's a big loss for the New York Mets. Tigers relief pitcher Tyler Alexander. I had never heard of this guy, but he came in as a relief pitcher in a doubleheader with the Reds. He broke and tied an American League record with his 9 consecutive strikeouts. Broke a record by the most consecutive strikeouts by an American League relief pitcher, and tied the record for the most consecutive strikeouts in the American League by any American League pitcher, starter or reliever. So Tyler Alexander had a day. The Tigers still ended up losing that game, but Tyler Alexander got some good out of it. The Cardinals are going to become the new Marlins as they have an outbreak in their 4-game series with the Tigers, was canceled. I'll have more on them here in a little bit. But the Phillies resume play as they fall to the Bronx Bombers. I'll give you stats on that game here in a little bit. A big loss for the Atlanta Braves as their ace pitcher Soroka is going to be out for the year with an Achilles tear. This is the Braves lineup that is stout with Dansby Swanson and Ronald Acuna, but now their pitching is going to be a question as their ace Soroka is out. Still have Max Fried, but Soroka was an absolutely huge part of that pitching game. The Marlins resume play after their outbreak. The MLB was waiting on test to get back, and they finally got the green light, and they ended up blanking the Orioles. I will give you some stats on that game here in a little bit as well. A couple days went by, and the MLB went ahead with its plan to shrink rosters a little earlier than expected, but they shrunk rosters from 30 to 28, and they plan to shrink that down from 28 to 26 at a later date. And I said I'd talk about the Cardinals more. Well, they surely are becoming the new Marlins. Their series with the Cubs was postponed after more positive tests, and then their series opener with the Pirates on Monday also got postponed because of positive tests. So the Cardinals really got to figure some things out if they want to end up playing some baseball again. That's your MLB headlines. Let's go ahead and take a look at some scores and stats. Sunday Night Baseball, Yankees and Red Sox had an absolute battle. Great game to watch, but Aaron Judge hit a go-ahead two-run home run in the bottom of the eighth. Aaron Judge has been on an absolute tear of home runs, playing really, really well for the Yankees. Speaking of the Yankees, they ended up beating the Phillies in the Phillies' first game back. It was the Phillies' first game since the 26th of July. And then the Marlins played their first game the next day since the 26th of July. They ended up blanking the Orioles. And I'll talk more about the Marlins here in a little bit. Marlins have been a bit of a surprise in Major League Baseball. The Dodgers and Padres had a really, really good game. The Padres were making a rally in late innings, had a run in the ninth, 2 outs, runner on third. 1 out, a runner on third, a pop-up. It was going to be a sacrifice fly. Grisham was running home, but Chris Taylor threw him out at home. It was the final out of the game, and the Dodgers escaped with a win, 7-6. The Braves and Blue Jays had a good game. Nick Markakis opted back into the season on this date. He hit a walk-off home run to have the Braves beat the Blue Jays. And then the Tigers and Pirates had extra inning, absolute run fest, highest scoring game of the season so far with 30 runs total scored. Tigers beat the Pirates 17-13 in 11 innings, and more extra inning drama as the Athletics and Marcus Semien hit a walk-off single in the bottom of the 13th to beat the Astros 3-2. That's your scores and stats. And as far as predictions go, I'm not going to give you game-by-game predictions. It'd just be way too much, and I'd end up picking way too many games. So instead, I'm going to answer 3 questions, the first of which I said I was going to talk about the Marlins later, and I am. Well, the Marlins continue to play lights out. They hold one of the best records in Major League Baseball right now. I believe they're 7-2 or 8-2. They've played absolutely crazy since coming out from their quarantine. But you have to look at who they've played too. They played the Phillies. The Phillies are a pretty solid team, but they haven't looked that great thus far. They've played the Orioles, which, again, haven't looked that great, but Orioles are fairly decent. And then they played the Mets, who have had their struggles, Pete Alonso not playing as well as he did last year. So I think we just have to wait and see until the Marlins play some good teams, like when they go play the Yankees, when they go play the Rays. I don't know, the Red Sox are a little down, but when they play the Red Sox, I mean, when they play the Nationals, when that series finally happens, when the Marlins start playing some good teams, I think they're going to lose more games than they're winning right now, but definitely the way they're playing right now could make a playoff spot and surprise everybody. But I do not think the Marlins are going to continue to look as good as they may appear. Which team is going to make a big turnaround? It's a 60-game season. You got to make a turnaround fast, and this is a team that has been injury-ridden but has had some good pitching and good play from other teams. Now, you may think, well, it's the Astros. You may think it's the Red Sox. But I went ahead and I went with the Cincinnati Reds. I think the Cincinnati Reds are going to make a big turnaround. They have a lot of great pitching. Trevor Bauer is pitching amazing. Sonny Gray pitching amazing. Luis Castillo is pitching okay, but I definitely think he can get back to where he was last year as an all-star, and Nick Castellanos has played really, really well, one of the highest home run hitters in baseball right now. But as I said, they've battled injuries. Mike Moustakas, not really been that healthy. Joey Votto's had some games on IL with sickness. Eugenio Suarez has been in and out of the lineup, and they got to get that outfield figured out besides Castellanos. So I think when the Reds get healthy and they get everything set, they're going to be a huge threat to the Cubs in the NL Central and a huge threat to whoever they may face come playoff time if they so happen to make the playoffs. I think they're going to make a big turnaround. And then which team are we overlooking? This team got a lot of hype in the offseason. They are a good, young, talented team. It is the Chicago White Sox. Luis Robert, that kid is going to be amazing. Their pitching is really, really good right now with Giolito and company. Alex Colon pitching really well out of the bullpen as well. They got some great hitters, some great young talent. The White Sox are a team you got to watch out for. Now, they are not a very patient team. They're going to swing on a lot of pitches and strike out a lot, but they're going to do some damage in between strikeouts. The White Sox hovering right around 500, but they're a team you definitely got to watch out for and a team that people may be overlooking. That is your MLB news. All right, now we move on to the NBA. They are in the Orlando, Florida bubble, and the seeding games have been pretty interesting so far. Some top teams not really playing all that well, and some bottom teams really, really firing up. We'll talk about that in a little bit, but let's give you some NBA headlines. The Magic's Jonathan Isaac tears his ACL. He's going to be out for the remainder of the restart. I'll talk about the Magic more in a little bit, but Jonathan Isaac is a huge loss for the Orlando Magic. A big playmaker there. Big guy, can rebound the ball great. Also can score if he has to, a great defender as well. So that's a huge loss for the Orlando Magic. The Lakers clinched the West #1 seed after a victory over the Utah Jazz. Lakers are a team that haven't looked the best in the bubble seeding games, but they were able to clinch the West #1 seed after a hard-fought victory against the Utah Jazz. The Grizzlies' Jaren Jackson tears his meniscus, and he's going to be out for the restart. Grizzlies still got guys like John Morant, Jonas Valanciunas, but Jaren Jackson was an absolutely huge part of what the Grizzlies were able to do. So come playoff time, if the Grizzlies happen to get that 8 seed, which I will talk about here in a little bit, definitely going to be a big loss if they so happen to face the Lakers, which if they get the 8 seed is who they will have to face. The NBA continues its streak of 0 positive tests across the bubble. Good news there for the NBA. It seems like they're going to be able to close out a season successfully. The Bucks come back from down 23 to beat the Miami Heat, and they clinch the East #1 seed. Talk about that game more in a little bit. The Bucks also a team that haven't looked that great, but they come back from down 23 to beat the Heat and clinch the East #1. Absolutely amazing from Milwaukee. And then this date right here, the 7th, is where the East got set. The Nets had to win to clinch a playoff spot, and they did just that. We'll look at that game here in a little bit as well. And then the Magic lost that date as well, so they needed the Wizards to lose to get into a playoff spot, and the Wizards did just that. Also look at that game here in a little bit. But the Magic take the last spot in the East, and the East playoff field is set. Giannis, LeBron, and James Harden are named MVP finalists, so it'll be interesting there to see who wins MVP. And then Ben Simmons is going to have surgery on his knee, and he is likely out for the season and for the playoffs. Depending on how far they go, they're hopeful that maybe they can get back for the finals if the Sixers make it that far, but more than likely out for the remainder of the restart. That is your NBA headlines. Let's look at some scores and stats. Rockets and Bucks. This was an interesting game because the Bucks dominated pretty much every statistical field. They had plus 26 rebound margin. They outshot the Rockets by at least 10 or 15%. Giannis Antetokounmpo did his thing, 36 points, 18 rebounds. But the Bucks had 23 turnovers to the Rockets' 9. Russell Westbrook and James Harden put on an absolute show. You see Westbrook's point stats right there. Again, the Bucks just looked pretty dominant statistically in this game, but late down the stretch, they had the Rockets get back. They let the Rockets get back into this game, and the Rockets ended up pulling away with the win. Pelicans and Grizzlies was an important game for both teams. Pelicans ended up winning that one. Zion Williamson, 23.7 rebounds. John Morant struggled in that game. This was also the game where Jaren Jackson tore his meniscus, later confirmed the next day. John Morant struggled, only 5 for 21 shooting. And overall free throw percentage for the Grizzlies was not that great in that game either. Pelicans come away with the win. This is the game the Lakers clinched the number 1 seed. They beat the Jazz 116-108. Anthony Davis put on a show, 42 points, 12 rebounds. I think only missed 1 free throw as well. Donovan Mitchell also only missed 1 free throw, but his 33 points were not enough to overcome the Lakers. Couple days went by, and then this was the game that really caught a lot of people's attention. The Bucks come back from down 23 to beat the Heat. In the last 5 minutes, they had a 20-0 run to put away the Heat comfortably and clinch the number 1 seed. See there, Antetokounmpo and Chris Middleton, 33 points each with a combined 22 of 31 field goals. The Nets clinch a playoff spot with a win over the Kings. Jarrett Allen close to a triple-double, 17 points, 11 rebounds, and 8 assists. And Bogdanovich did his thing, 27 points, shooting great from 3, but was not enough as the Nets clinch an East playoff spot and a big loss for the Sacramento Kings. A huge win for the Pelicans here, 118-107 against the Wizards. But it was an even bigger loss for the Wizards as they were eliminated from the playoffs. Only had 17 bench points in that game. You got to get more production from your bench, but Jrue Holiday was absolutely amazing in that game, 28 points, 11 of 16 shooting, as the Zionless Pelicans in this game ended up beating the Wizards and knocking them out of the playoffs. The Nuggets and Jazz had a double overtime thriller. Jokic close to a triple-double. Donovan Mitchell was absolutely amazing as well, but was not enough as the Nuggets overcome the Jazz to win in double overtime. A game that I do not have on here was the Mavericks and Bucks. Mavericks ended up beating the Bucks in overtime. Luka Doncic, absolutely amazing in that game, but I didn't put on here because we're most likely not going to see them at a later date in the playoffs. Nuggets and Jazz we could see in the playoffs. So that's your scores and stats in the NBA. Now let's take a look at some predictions. And again, no game-by-game predictions, but I will be giving you a prediction on who's going to take the West 8 seed, as that is going to be decided next week. Here are all the teams in contention. Now I'm going to eliminate a few right away. I don't think it's going to be the Sacramento Kings. I don't think it's going to be the San Antonio Spurs. And I'm sad to say I don't think it's going to be the New Orleans Pelicans. They were my pre-seeding game, pre-opening restart day prediction. But I have a different prediction now. I think it's down to the Trailblazers, Suns, and Grizzlies. Now the Suns are on an absolute tear. They are 5-0 in the bubble. They were the team that kind of got thrown in the bubble, like the Wizards in the East, that said, yeah, we'll put them in the bubble. They don't really have a shot, though. They're 5-0, and they are climbing fast. But to me, I don't think they're going to be enough. I think it's going to be the Grizzlies and Trailblazers for the 8-seed playoff. Now, if you didn't know, if the 8 and 9 seed are within 4 games of each other, they're going to have a best-of-1 or best-of-3 series. I forget which one, but an 8-seed playoff there. And I think it's going to be the Portland Trailblazers. Damian Lillard's been there before. CJ McCollum's been there before. They got big guys, Zach Collins and Yusuf Nurkic back, along with Hassan Whiteside in there as well. So the Trailblazers, I think, are going to overcome the Grizzlies if they happen to meet in that 8 and 9 seed playoff, which is what I think is going to happen. So I'm going to give the West 8 seed to the Portland Trailblazers. That's your NBA predictions, and that is your NBA news. All right, now we move on to the NHL, and probably the sport I watched the most of this past week. Stanley Cup qualifiers have been really, really fun, as well as these round-robin games. But let's take a look at let's take a look at the headlines first. Now, this did not happen in the week, but I had to cover it. Mark Scheifele was injured on a hit by Matthew Tkachuk, and Paul Maurice was just absolutely disgusted with the hit. He said it was definitely on purpose. Matthew Tkachuk went out for Mark Scheifele's leg. He said he could have ripped his Achilles, could have ended his career. I think Paul Maurice is being a little bit over-exaggerated here, as I don't think Matthew Tkachuk did anything too intentional. Now, there may have been a little kick out with his skate, but definitely bad blood between the Flames and Jets. That series was a lot of fun to watch. Nazem Kadri scores a game-winning goal with 0.1 seconds left in the round-robin game as the Avalanche beat the Blues. Now I put this on here because there's only been 2 goals in the 1959-minute mark, game-winning goals in playoff history, and that was one of them. The NHL reports 0 positive out of over 7,000 COVID tests since July 26th of the NHL, going to be able to finish out the Stanley Cup playoffs. The Seattle Kraken, the newly named 32nd member of the National Hockey League, absolutely shatter expansion franchise record sales. previously held by the Vegas Golden Knights. They absolutely shattered it. I'm excited to see the Seattle Kraken get on the ice in 2021-2022. The Maple Leafs, Jake Muzzin is going to be out for the series against Columbus. Game 5 is tonight. I'll talk about that in a little bit. My Blue Jackets in a good series with the Maple Leafs, but Jake Muzzin not going to be playing after an on-ice collision. He was hospitalized, but previously said he felt okay, so Jake Muzzin hopefully going to be able to get back on the ice for the Maple Leafs if they happen to get past Columbus in Game 5. I have a headline about that later. But the Bruins and Blues, the top team in the East and the top team in the West, can't be the number 1 or number 2 seed in their conference. Both these teams have not played that well in round-robin games, and number 1, number 2 seed, not a possibility. They can only get 3 or 4 now. So a big surprise there from the Bruins and Blues. The Ducks, the Anaheim Ducks, not a team in the bubble, so they are starting off-season preparations. They re-signed defenseman Jacob Larson to a 2-year, $2.4 million contract, a great sign from Anaheim, and back-to-back 3-goal comebacks for the Leafs and Jackets. The Jackets in Game 3 come behind from 3 goals, win it in overtime. The Leafs come behind from 3 goals in Game 4 to win it in overtime. It sets up an all-or-nothing Game 5 tonight on NBCSN, and I absolutely cannot wait to watch that game. It airs at the same time this show goes live, so I'm definitely going to be keeping an eye on that game. As I hope my Blue Jackets can get past, but I'll give you my prediction on that game in a little bit. But just yesterday, the Flyers and Golden Knights clinched the number 1 seeds as the Lightning and Avalanche. The loser of those 2 games get the number 2 seed. So number 1, number 2 seed set. The 3 and 4 seeds will be decided today, along with that Leafs and Jackets series. Those are your NHL headlines. Let's look at Stanley Cup qualifiers. And if you did not know, the qualifiers are a best-of-5 series, and none of the 5 seeds will be in the Stanley Cup playoffs. The Montreal Canadiens knocked out the Pittsburgh Penguins, and the Chicago Blackhawks knocked out the Edmonton Oilers. Other upsets, the Arizona Coyotes upset the Nashville Predators in 4 games. The Hurricanes swept the Rangers. The Islanders beat the Panthers in 4 games. The Canucks beat the Wild in 4 games. The Flames beat the Jets in 4 games. And, of course, Game 5 of Toronto and Columbus is happening tonight. Philadelphia, as I just mentioned, takes first place in the round robin, and Vegas takes first place in the round robin. St. Louis, Dallas, and Washington, Boston play tonight. So as far as predictions on the Washington-Boston game, Boston has not looked all that great. Washington's looked a little better than Boston. I think I'm going to give this game to Washington. Boston showed a little energy in their game against Tampa Bay, but I think Boston's mentality is, well, we already won the President's Cup. We're already in the round. Let's just kind of relax and play chill. But because of that, I think Washington's going to end up getting 3rd place, and I think St. Louis is going to get 3rd place. I think Dallas just has a lot of questions getting the 4 seed there. In the round robin. I just think that's where Dallas is going to be. So now let's go ahead and give you some predictions for the Stanley Cup first round. These are going to be the series that I am predicting. Of course, Philadelphia and Montreal are going to be playing. Tampa Bay is going to face the winner of Columbus and Toronto. I don't really have a prediction for that game. I really could see it going either way. I hope my Blue Jackets come out on top, but really, I definitely could see that game going either way. My prediction is the Capitals are going to get the 3 seeds, so they're going to get the Islanders, but really it could be the Capitals or Bruins who face the Islanders, and it could also be the Capitals or Bruins who face the Carolina Hurricanes. And then in the West, the Vegas Golden Knights are going to be playing the Chicago Blackhawks. The Colorado Avalanche are going to be facing the Arizona Coyotes. And then my prediction, 3rd place St. Louis Blues are going to be facing the Calgary Flames, and then Dallas Stars are going to be facing the Vancouver Canucks. I think St. Louis will get the 3 seed, and Dallas will get the 4 seed, but again, those 2 teams could be flipped. So my prediction is I think the Flyers will beat the Canadiens in 5 games. I think no matter who Tampa Bay plays, they're going to win that series in 6 games. If it's Columbus, it could be an interesting series. Remember, Columbus swept the President Cup winner Tampa Bay Lightning last year in the first round of the playoffs, so it could be an interesting series there. But I think Tampa Bay will learn from their mistakes and win whoever they face in 6. I think the Washington Capitals will face the New York Islanders and win that series in 6. I think the Carolina Hurricanes will end up beating the Boston Bruins in 7 games. They have looked absolutely amazing with Sebastian Aho there. And I think the Hurricanes are going to move on to the round of 8 in the Stanley Cup playoffs. I think no matter if they face the Capitals or the Boston Bruins, I think they're going to go forward in the Stanley Cup playoffs. I think the Vegas Golden Knights will beat the Chicago Blackhawks in 6. Blackhawks have looked really good, but so have the Golden Knights. I think the Golden Knights will win it in 6. I think the Colorado Avalanche will beat the Arizona Coyotes in 5. Taylor Hall is an explosive player for the Coyotes, but Colorado's got too many playmakers. I'll give this one to the Avalanche in 5. St. Louis Blues, who I predict will be facing the Calgary Flames, I think will win that series in 6. And I think the Vancouver Canucks will end up beating the Dallas Stars in 7. Now, if Calgary ends up facing Dallas, I think Calgary will end up winning that series in 7 games as well. And St. Louis faces Vancouver, same prediction. I'll go with the St. Louis Blues in 6. But that is my Stanley Cup first-round playoff predictions, and that is your NHL news. All right, we move on to the last sport here, and that is MLS. Let's give you some headlines. Don't have a lot of headlines, but the Portland Timbers and Orlando City set up the MLS's back tournament final. I'll get into that here in a little bit. But let's talk about that Portland Timbers-Philadelphia Union game. Timbers were up 2-0 late, but here come the Philadelphia Union. Game-tying goal was waved off because of an offside, and Portland holds off Philadelphia. Big news here for the New England Revolution. Carlos Gill, a stout midfielder, is going to have Achilles surgery likely done for the season. That's a big loss for the New England Revolution. The MLS Commissioner, Don Garber, has said, the MLS is going to plan to have fans where we can, as they have announced the schedule for the restart. I have a headline down there as well. The MLS mutually terminates FC Dallas goalkeeper Jesse Gonzalez's contract after lots of allegations and everything like that, and they have mutually agreed, yep, but that's it, buddy, you're gone. So FC Dallas no longer has Jesse Gonzalez as their goaltender, and as I just said, the MLS announces their plan. Phase 1 for the regular season is going to start on August 12th and August 16th with FC Dallas and Nashville playing 2 games against each other to make up for them opting out of the MLS's back tournament. It's going to be an 18-team playoff format with the final happening on December 12th. That's your MLS headlines. Let's get into the semifinal games of the MLS's back tournament. On the 5th, we have the Portland Timbers and Philadelphia Union. Talk about this one a little bit, but Jeremy Ebobisse in the 13th minute strikes early for the Portland Timbers, and Sebastian Blanco has had an absolutely fantastic tournament, scored in the 70th minute. But here come the Philadelphia Union. Andrew Wooten in the 85th minute scores for the Union. And all of a sudden, a breakaway goal, 86th minute. Here we go. Philadelphia Union gets it in the net, and the game is tied. We're going into a penalty shootout. But VAR comes through and says, "Nah, buddy, you were offside." So the Philadelphia Union tying goal waved off as the Timbers beat the Union. Yellow cards to Kai Wagner and Alejandro Bedoya for the Philadelphia Union. And then the next game, Orlando City, Minnesota United. Nani was absolutely brilliant in that game, 36-minute goal and 42nd minute goal. Just played absolutely amazing. But here come Minnesota United. They have life. Mason Toye scores in the 83rd minute, and I think he's a very underrated player for Minnesota United. He ends up scoring in the 83rd minute. But a giveaway for Minnesota United as Benji Michel scores in the 6th minute of stoppage time as Orlando City ices Minnesota United and plays their way into the MLS is back tournament final. So here it is, the MLS is back tournament final on August 11th. This is going to be an absolutely phenomenal game. The Portland Timbers against Orlando City. Portland's been in the situation before. They played in many MLS Cup finals, many MLS's Cup playoff semifinals as well. They've been in the situation before. Sebastian Blanco and company knows how to handle it. But Orlando City has looked really, really good in their home city. So it's going to be a very, very interesting game. I think it's going to be a very, very close game. Really hard for me to predict who's going to win this one, but I'm going to go with the Portland Timbers and 2-1. I think Sebastian Blanco is going to be an absolutely huge difference maker in this game for the Portland Timbers. And while I think Nani will score a goal for Orlando City, I don't think it's going to be enough. I think Portland is going to win this game in regulation 2-1. That's your MLS is back tournament final prediction, and that is your MLS news. All right, that's going to do it for the first ever Tailgate Nate Sports Show. Again, I recapped August 2nd to August 8th and gave you some predictions on some things for next week. I really hope you guys enjoyed. I had a lot of fun putting this together and just watching sports in general. If you guys enjoyed, please leave a like. Also consider subscribing if you are brand new to the channel or you just enjoyed this video. Turn on that notification bell to join Tailgate Nation. Again, I upload every Sunday at 8 o'clock Eastern Standard Time, recapping the week. If you haven't done so already, leave a comment down below. Give me your thoughts on this week in sports. Go subscribe to my other channel, Tailgate Nate College Football. Thank you guys so much for watching. Share this video with anyone you may know who loves sports as much as you and me. And remember, until next time, play hard but tailgate harder. I'll see y'all in the next video. Goodbye.